Beauty obeys me, every strand, every soul. Beauty is power, and power is mine. They asked for beauty, and I gave it.
3 months later, the city seemed calm. People whispered about Madame Chiamaka, the mysterious stylist who had vanished after the mirror shattered, but no one truly knew the full story. Far away, Ifeoma and Amara had started fresh lives in a quieter city. They ran a modest salon, grateful for the peace, though sometimes the mirrors shimmered oddly, reflecting faint golden glows that seemed to move on their own. One evening, as they were closing, the lights flickered, and a subtle sweet fragrance filled the air, strange yet familiar. Suddenly, the largest mirror shimmered, and a figure appeared, a tall, slim, fair albino woman with long, full black hair that reached the ground, flowing like a river of silk. Madame Chiamaka stepped out of the mirror entirely into the room. Her presence was breathtaking, yet chilling. "Follow me," she said, softly but firmly. Ifeoma and Amara froze, but the power in her gaze left no room for refusal. They exchanged a nervous glance and silently followed her through quiet streets to a new saloon glowing softly with golden light above the door. Golden Touch by Madame C. Inside the saloon, the mirrors gleamed and soft music played. Chiamaka gestured to Ifeoma and Amara to begin working with her, and they did so obediently, though their faces held a mixture of awe and unease. Her salon quickly filled with customers, drawn not only to her skill, but to her presence. Men who entered the salon found themselves unable to resist her charm, her calm voice, her flawless appearance, and the graceful sway of her long black hair. Soon, she noticed a pattern. Those who looked at her left their relationships or marriages, not by force, but by an unspoken pull they felt for her, and came back begging for her attention and guidance. Chiamaka accepted them all quietly, without explanation, and they began living together in her mansion above the salon. They obeyed her without question, helping her run the salon, attending to her needs, and maintaining the home exactly as she wished. Later that day, a young girl about 12 years old entered the salon alone. Her eyes glowed faintly with a soft divine light, and she walked with calm authority. "I want you to make my hair," the girl said, softly but firmly. Chiamaka studied her closely, noticing something strange about the girl, the way her smile never faltered, the calm power she seemed to radiate, and the faint light that seemed to surround her. Chiamaka felt an unexplainable shiver. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The girl smiled faintly, tilting her head. Chiamaka could not read her expression. Days later, Chiamaka visited her home. She found her alone in her room reading the Bible quietly. "What are you?" Chiamaka asked. "Why did you visit my salon?" The girl looked up calmly, smiling softly. "It is not yet time. We shall meet on that fateful day," she replied. Chiamaka left feeling unsettled, her long black hair flowing behind her, thinking about the girl as she returned to her mansion. She wandered through the grand halls of her home, her eyes distant. "Who is she?" she murmured. "How does she hold such power? How could a child carry a force I cannot measure?" She sat in her chair, staring into her reflection, her long black hair cascading to the floor. The memory of the girl's faint smile lingered in her mind, and she could not shake the feeling that something far greater awaited on the day the girl had promised. Meanwhile, her salon thrived with customers, and the men who lived with her continued to obey silently, their fascination complete. Chiamaka walked among them, her long black hair sweeping the floor, and her presence commanding awe. Yet her thoughts ever returning to the girl. Something about that smile, something about her calm strength stirred a feeling Chiamaka had never known. Curiosity, fear, respect, and a strange anticipation, all at once. 3 days later, the salon hummed with life. The golden mirrors reflected the soft music, the chatter of customers, and the calm, commanding presence of Madame Chiamaka. Her long, full black hair flowed across the polished floor, moving slightly as she walked. The men who lived with her were busy attending to every detail, polishing surfaces, adjusting chairs, and carrying refreshments to the waiting clients. Their obedience was quiet, complete, and unwavering. Chiamaka moved gracefully through the salon, comb in hand, her small serpent comb glinting faintly under the golden light. She styled the young woman's hair. Her touch was precise, yet there was an elegance in the sway of her long black hair that drew the eyes of everyone in the room. Her thoughts, however, were elsewhere. The memory of the 12-year-old girl's calm smile and faint glowing eyes lingered like a shadow at the edge of her mind. She stopped for a moment, letting the comb rest lightly in her fingers, her sharp eyes scanning the room. The air felt heavier now, as if anticipating something. At that moment, the bell above the door chimed softly. Chiamaka's sharp gaze flicked toward the entrance. The girl was standing there, alone, calm and poised, dressed in a simple white dress, eyes glimmering faintly with that quiet power she could not comprehend. "Madame Chiamaka," the girl said softly, walking forward without hesitation, "I have come to see you again." Chiamaka's lips curved into a subtle, unreadable smile. "I wondered when you would return," she said, her voice calm but with a hint of curiosity. "Do you come to learn or to test me?" The girl tilted her head, her faint smile never leaving her face. "Neither, yet both. I am here because the time is approaching, a time you will not be able to ignore." Chiamaka's eyes narrowed slightly, and her long black hair shimmered under the light as she moved closer. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. The girl raised a small hand, and the faint glow surrounding her seemed to intensify for a brief moment, lighting up the corner of the salon. Chiamaka felt an unusual chill run through her, an unfamiliar sense of respect and caution. "I cannot tell you everything now," the girl said, "but know this, one day your choices will meet consequences you cannot see." Chiamaka's face showed the faintest flicker of unease, although she kept her composure. "Interesting," she murmured, her tongue flicking slightly like a serpent, betraying a hint of her half-human, half-serpent nature. "You speak boldly for one so young." The girl's eyes did not waver. "Age does not measure strength," she said softly, "and you will see, madame, that some forces even you cannot control." A hush fell over the salon. Customers looked on, mesmerized by the intensity in the interaction, unaware of the silent, powerful tension between the two. Chiamaka straightened, her long black hair sweeping across the polished floor like a river of silk, a subtle shimmer in its movement as if responding to the girl's presence. "Very well," Chiamaka said finally, her calm voice returning. "You may sit. Let me see what you have." The girl seated herself gracefully in the styling chair. Chiamaka approached, her serpent comb glinting, and began walking slowly on the girl's hair. Each movement was precise, yet there was an elegance and danger in her touch. As she walked, the girl remained perfectly still, her faint glow pulsating softly as if she were aware of every strand being combed. Chiamaka paused occasionally, feeling that same strange unease she could not explain. The girl's calmness, her quiet strength made her hands tremble ever so slightly. For the first time in years, Chiamaka felt something she had not felt before, uncertainty. Why are you not afraid?" Chiamaka asked softly, tilting her head as she walked. The girl smiled faintly. "Fear is for those who cannot see clearly. I see, and I know everything unfolds in its own time." Chiamaka's gaze softened slightly, a mixture of curiosity and respect forming on her face. Her long hair shimmered in the golden light, falling like a waterfall around her.
She walked carefully, but her mind raced. The girl was not just a child. She was a presence, a force that even Chiamaka herself could not fully measure. By the time she finished, the girl's hair was perfect, every strand gleaming under the salon lights. The girl stood gracefully, her faint glow dimming slightly but still noticeable. "Thank you," she said softly, her calm eyes meeting Chiamaka's. "We shall meet again. The time will come, and then all will be revealed." Before Chiamaka could respond, the girl turned and walked out of the salon, her steps quiet but purposeful. Chiamaka remained seated for a long moment, staring into her reflection in the nearest mirror, her long black hair cascading to the floor, thoughts swirling. Who is this girl?" she whispered to herself. "How could a child carry a strength I cannot measure? And why does she unsettle me?" The salon continued its rhythm around her, men polishing, customers chatting, the soft hum of hair dryers, but her mind remained elsewhere, haunted by the girl's calm authority. Soon after, Chiamaka returned to her mansion above the salon. The men who lived there moved silently, anticipating her commands. She walked through the grand halls, her long black hair brushing the floor, eyes distant and thoughtful. She entered her private chamber and sat in her golden chair, staring into her reflection. The memory of the girl's faint, confident smile lingered in her mind. "She is coming," Chiamaka murmured softly, more to herself than anyone else. "And when she does, I must be ready." The camera pans out slowly from Chiamaka seated in her chair, her black hair spreading like a river of silk across the polished floor, the golden glow of the mansion reflecting off the walls. The faint echo of soft whispers seems to rise from nowhere, carrying with it an unseen tension, a promise that the next encounter would change everything. Outside, the city slept, calm yet unaware. Inside, Chiamaka's salon and mansion glowed warmly, full of life, obedient and elegant, yet a new force had entered her world, subtle but undeniable. The faint smile of the 12-year-old girl remained in Chiamaka's mind, haunting her thoughts, stirring curiosity, fear, respect, and anticipation.
3 days had passed since the mysterious girl had left Chiamaka's salon. In the quiet of her modest home, the girl, now 12 years old, sat reading her Bible, the soft golden light from the window illuminating her faintly glowing eyes. Her calm aura filled the room, serene yet powerful. She had made a decision. A force long anticipated would need guidance and protection. Meanwhile, far across the city, Pastor Henry knelt in prayer, seeking wisdom and clarity. The weight of the past encounters with Madame Chiamaka still lingered in his mind. Mama Ejima sat beside him, lighting candles and murmuring prayers, the flickering flames reflecting the determination and faith in her eyes. Suddenly, a soft knock at the door interrupted the quiet. Before either could react, the young girl stepped inside, her presence commanding attention despite her small frame. Pastor Henry looked up, surprised but composed. "Child, what brings you here?" he asked gently. "I have come," the girl said softly but certain, "because the time is approaching, a time you will need to understand what is at stake. Chiamaka's influence grows stronger, and yet there are forces even she cannot see." Mama Ejima's hands tightened over her Bible, sensing the divine authority radiating from the girl. "Are you sent to protect us?" she whispered, awe in her voice. The girl nodded faintly. "I have been sent to prepare the way. Your prayers are strong, but soon you will face a test that must be met with faith and courage." Back in the heart of the city, Chiamaka walked gracefully through her glowing salon. Her long, full black hair swept across the polished floor, each step deliberate, her golden eyes alert. The men who lived in her mansion attended to her silently, their loyalty absolute. Yet her mind was not on them, it was on the girl, that calm, mysterious presence that unsettled her in ways she had never known. That evening, Chiamaka decided to pay the girl a visit. She moved quietly, her long hair flowing behind her like liquid shadow, her serpent comb glinting in the fading light. The streets seemed to bend subtly around her presence as she approached the child's home. She paused outside the door, taking a deep breath, curiosity and anticipation mixing in her golden eyes. Inside, the girl remained calm, as if she had expected Chiamaka. When the door opened, Chiamaka stepped inside, her half-human, half-serpent nature barely contained beneath her elegant form. "Child, why do you keep returning to my thoughts?" Chiamaka asked softly, her tone a mixture of curiosity, caution, and barely restrained power. The girl looked up, her faintly glowing eyes meeting Chiamaka's gaze. "Because the time is near, a day that will reveal what you cannot yet measure. You are powerful, Chiamaka, but not infinite, and even you will meet what is greater than yourself." Chiamaka's lips curved into a subtle, unreadable smile, her hair flowing like liquid shadow around her. "Bold words for one so young," she murmured, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. "Do you not fear what I can do?" "I see, and knowing is different from fearing. There is a balance you have yet to understand." The words struck Chiamaka with an unfamiliar chill. She stepped closer, her serpent comb in her hand, faintly hissing as the tiny serpents glinted under the lamplight. "You confuse me," she whispered. "How can one so small hold a presence so unyielding?" Outside, Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima prayed, feeling a subtle stirring in the spiritual realm, as if the girl's visit had shifted unseen currents. The city remained unaware, but the air itself seemed charged with expectancy. Later that night, Chiamaka returned to her mansion. Her long hair swept across the floor, brushing polished tiles like liquid shadow. The men attended to her silently, their loyalty absolute, yet her mind remained with the girl. She entered her private chamber and seated herself in her golden chair, staring into her mirror. The memory of the girl's glowing eyes and calm smile haunted her, stirring curiosity, respect, and the faintest hint of unease. Suddenly, the air shimmered before her. Chiamaka froze as the girl appeared in her secret chamber, standing with calm authority, her faint glow illuminating the room. "You must free them," the girl said, softly but firmly, her eyes holding a quiet power Chiamaka could not ignore. Chiamaka's eyes widened in shock, her long hair flowing around her like liquid night. How did you get here?" she whispered, voice barely audible, heart racing despite her composed exterior. The girl's gaze did not waver. "I told you, even you cannot see all that is coming. The men who serve you, they deserve freedom. Your time to control everything is ending. It is not too late to make the right choice." Chiamaka's mind raced. Her half-human, half-serpent instincts bristled, yet she could not shake the truth in the girl's words. For the first time, she felt uncertainty. The camera panned slowly from the girl standing in the golden lit chamber to Chiamaka seated in her chair, her black hair cascading to the floor, her golden eyes reflecting both fear and fascination. The tension between the small girl's calm authority and Chiamaka's dark elegance promises a confrontation that would test courage, strategy, and unseen powers. 3 days after Chiamaka's strange encounter with the glowing-eyed girl, peace lingered only for a moment across the city. Something had shifted, a quiet war between two powers, one seen and one unseen. That evening, far from the glittering salon, the little girl sat quietly at the corner of her small room. The candle beside her flickered softly, casting golden shadows on her face. Her Bible lay open before her, and her voice, calm and steady, filled the air. "Father, let those bound in darkness see your light once more." Outside, a soft wind moved, circling her window like an unseen messenger. When she finished her prayer, she rose gently and smiled, a smile both innocent and full of quiet strength. It was time. Across the other side of town, in a small house by the river, an old woman named Gozi's mother wept bitterly. She had lost nearly everything. Her daughter had gone missing months ago and was last seen near Madame Chiamaka's old salon. Her tears had not stopped since. She knelt on the floor, clutching her wrapper tightly. "God, have you forgotten me?" she cried softly. "My daughter, my only child." Her voice trembled through the silent night. Then, suddenly, the door creaked open. A soft golden light entered the room, wrapping everything in warmth. The old woman looked up, startled. Standing in the doorway was the little girl, her eyes glowing faintly, her face calm and radiant. "Mama, stop crying," the girl said softly, her voice kind yet full of authority. "Heaven has remembered you." The woman froze, staring at her in awe. Who are you, my child?" The girl smiled faintly. One sent to bring light where darkness ruled too long. Before the woman could speak again, a cool wind swept through the house. She felt peace wash over her heart for the first time in months. The girl stepped closer, laid her small hand on the woman's shoulder, and whispered a short prayer. Instantly, the heavy sadness in the woman's heart lifted like mist under sunlight. The tears that fell next were no longer of pain but relief. "Thank you, my father," the old woman whispered. The girl turned gently toward the door. "Your daughter will be found. Keep your faith." And with that, she stepped outside, vanishing into the evening light. At the crowded market square, chaos reigned. Vendors shouted, drums echoed in the distance, and the smell of roasted corn filled the air. But at one corner, people had gathered around a woman screaming and pulling her hair, gauzy. Her eyes were wide, her clothes torn. She muttered to herself and laughed at shadows no one else could see. Everyone kept their distance, whispering in fear. "Now that woman will run mad since last year. They say she talked to herself every day." Suddenly, the crowd fell silent as a small figure walked through them, the little girl. Her calm steps and faint glow made everyone move aside without knowing why. She stopped in front of Gozi, who was now trembling and muttering, "Leave me alone, leave me alone." The girl looked at her gently. "Gozi, you are free." As the girl stretched her hand toward her, the wind swirled around them. Gozi screamed once, a cry that echoed through the market, and then fell silent. The crowd gasped. The woman who had been lost in madness slowly lifted her head. Her eyes cleared. Her trembling stopped. She blinked as if waking from a deep sleep. "Where am I?" she whispered. The girl smiled faintly and said, "You are home again. Heaven has remembered you." The crowd shouted in wonder. Some knelt, others began to sing softly. Gozi's mother, guided by neighbors, arrived at the market at that very moment. When she saw her daughter standing whole and calm, she cried out in joy, "My daughter, my child!" They embraced, weeping, but this time with thanksgiving. The girl stepped back quietly, her work done. Back at her golden mansion, Madame Chiamaka stood before her mirror, her serpent comb glinting under candlelight. But the calm beauty she once displayed was gone. Her golden eyes burned with fury. She slammed her hand against the table, cracking the glass. "Who dares to undo what I have built?" Her reflection trembled, then steadied, showing her own angry face staring back at her. She turned sharply. Her loyal attendants knelt quietly in fear. "Find her, the little one with glowing eyes. Find her!" As she spoke, the light flickered. A strange wind passed through the room, and every mirror shimmered faintly, as though responding to a power greater than hers. That night, she left her mansion, her long black hair flowing like liquid shadow behind her. Her footsteps echoed through the city as she followed the faint trace of the girl's presence. At a quiet open field on the edge of town, the girl stood waiting. Fireflies danced in the cool night air, forming a golden circle around her. Then, from the shadows, Chiamaka appeared, tall, radiant, her beauty both mesmerizing and dangerous. Her golden eyes glowed with anger, and the serpent comb in her hand hissed faintly. "You," Chiamaka said, her voice low and sharp. "Why do you keep interfering with what is mine?" The girl turned slowly, her calm eyes meeting Chiamaka's burning gaze. "They were never yours," she replied gently. "You hold them, but you did not create them." Chiamaka's hair shimmered, the strands moving as if alive. "You don't understand," she hissed. "Their gifts came from me, their beauty, their success, all mine. You come like a thief, stealing what I shaped." The girl's voice remained soft but carried immense weight. "You shaped them through control, not love. What you give is never free, but light breaks chains, and every soul you've held captive will return to where it belongs." Chiamaka stepped closer, her golden eyes narrowing. "Stay away from me, child. Stay away from anything that concerns me, or I will show you what true power feels like." The girl did not move. Her eyes shone brighter, reflecting peace rather than fear. "You speak of power," she said, "but you forget. Power without light consumes itself. I am not here to destroy you, Chiamaka. I am here to remind you of what you once were before darkness took hold." For a moment, silence fell. The wind stilled. Chiamaka's serpent's comb trembled slightly, as if the girl's words had touched something deep within her. But pride rose again like smoke. "I need no reminder," she snapped. "I built my own kingdom." The girl's eyes glowed like the rising sun. Then, prepare to see it shaking. A soft wind swept between them. Chiamaka's serpent comb began to hiss louder, but the girl lifted her hand, and instantly the hissing stopped. For the first time, fear crossed Chiamaka's face. Meanwhile, in Pastor Henry's house, he and Mama Njima were deep in prayer. Both had felt the spiritual tension stirring that night. The candles flickered wildly as the wind howled through the window. Mama Njima's voice rose above the noise. "Lord, let your light prevail tonight." Pastor Henry felt a deep conviction in his heart. He opened his Bible and declared, "Every hidden power that rises against your plan, let it bow to the truth." And as they prayed, a vision opened before them. They could see the girl and Chiamaka standing in the golden light of the field. Mama Njima gasped softly, "That child, she carries something holy." Pastor Henry nodded slowly. "Yes, and through her the city will find peace again." Back at the field, Chiamaka's fury turned to confusion. The serpent comb in her hand melted into golden dust. She stared at it in disbelief. The girl stepped forward, her small hand glowing faintly. "You still have a choice, Chiamaka. Release them and you may yet find peace." Chiamaka's voice broke. "And if I refuse?" The girl's expression softened sadly. "Then the light will still prevail, but without your peace." A tear shimmered in her golden eye, quickly wiped away. She turned sharply and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only silence. The girl looked up at the night sky and whispered, "It has begun." The next morning, the city awoke to strange peace. The air felt lighter. The mirrors in Madame Chiamaka's salon cracked faintly and turned dim. Some of her workers left suddenly with their eyes clear for the first time. At Pastor Henry's church, people gathered to testify of strange dreams, of chains breaking, of light filling dark rooms, of long-lost peace returning. Mama Njima smiled as the girl quietly entered the church and sat at the back pew. She nodded at Pastor Henry, who understood instantly. "The battle is not over," he said to the congregation, "but the victory has begun." The girl smiled faintly, her eyes glowing softly as the sunlight touched her face. The final light and the angels reveal. Inside her golden mansion, Madame Chiamaka paced restlessly, her serpent comb clutched tight in her hand. The mirrors around her shimmered like living water. Her breath came heavy, her face filled with fear. "Who is this little girl? I can't attack her," she whispered. "She looks like the Most High." She tried to summon power, but the fire in her palm went cold. The serpent comb hissed once and fell silent. She screamed and shattered a mirror. "No one makes me weak, no one." But deep down, she felt it. The end was near. Across town that same evening, Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima led the evening service. The candles flickered softly as worship filled the small church. At the back sat the quiet little girl in white, her face glowing gently in the golden light. Mama Ejima looked at her and felt peace flow through her heart. Pastor Henry lifted his Bible and declared, "The night is dark, but the light of God will rise." Suddenly, the air changed. The candles bent toward the girl as if bowing. She stood slowly and said in a calm voice, "It is time." The church fell silent. Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima exchanged a knowing look and followed her out into the night. The streets were quiet, the wind heavy with unseen power. Far ahead, at the edge of town, the golden mansion shimmered like a dying flame. Chiamaka stood outside waiting, her eyes wild with anger and fear. As they approached her, the little girl stopped and raised her eyes. Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima began to pray. "Let every darkness bow before the light," Pastor Henry cried. "Let every hidden chain break," Mama Ejima declared. Chiamaka shouted, "Stay away from me." She tried to command her power, but nothing came. The little girl did not speak. She only looked at her. That gaze alone carried the strength of heaven. The wind swirled. Chiamaka shouted, "Please stop looking at me." She staggered backward, her golden eyes dimming. The air burst into bright lights. All around the mansion, the shadows broke apart, and from them the men she had held captive fell to the ground, free again. Their eyes opened wide, and they ran shouting back to their families. Chiamaka fell to her knees, trembling. "Who are you?" she whispered. The little girl lifted her hand once more. Her eyes glowed like morning sun. Chiamaka cried out as her body began to turn into golden dust. "No!" Her voice vanished with the wind, and the mansion went silent. Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima fell to their knees, weeping in awe. The little girl turned toward them, her white dress shining brighter than before. Her wings unfolded pure and wide, filling the night with light. Mama Ejima gasped, "You are an angel." The angel smiled softly. "The battle is over. Keep the light burning." Slowly she rose into the sky, her form glowing like the dawn. Pastor Henry and Mama Ejima watched as she disappeared among the stars, whispering prayers of gratitude. The next morning, when people walked past the street where Chiamaka's mansion once stood, there was nothing left. No gold, no mirror, no building. Only fresh grass and a calm wind moving gently across the land. Peace returned, and the city finally rested. The end. Thank you for watching this amazing story by Stories Kingdom.